anything cute to say, so we're just going to start this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, children, as well as babies, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Driveline Academy podcast, the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast with changing hardware behind me. I am Deven Morgan, Director of Youth Baseball at Driveline, founder of the Driveline Academy, your marble mouth host, and I am joined, as per usual, by my brother, my partner, my co-host, Driveline Academy Assistant Director, Driveline Academy International, Man of Mystery, Jeremy Tactile. Thank you, guys. We should just do the housekeeping. I always feel like I'm about to forget the housekeeping, but we'll run through it quickly. axbat.com, code DL20. Get yourself 20% off of bats at axbat.com. Coincidentally, they sell bats. You want bats. You want to buy bats. We'll sell them to you for cheaper at axbat. What else? Skills at Scale, the complete youth baseball training manual. And a quick shout out to dummies on the internet that I'm very fond of. Look, the book retail price is $199. And you, dear listener, who knows nothing about this, and this is the first time you've joined us on one of these episodes, you would say, Deven, why is the book $199? That seems excessive. If it was just a book, I would agree, and we wouldn't do that. However, it's not just a book, because what comes with it is a litany, that's right, a litany of resources for you so that you can build a better baseball player, so that you can help your kid continue to play this game, so you can focus on their skill in a meaningful way. And you can do that while having fun because of the tools we're trying to equip you with. So it's not just a text that you're just going to read through and it's flat. It has stuff for you. What are those things? It has our yearly training plan, which you can modify for your own purposes. We start our schedule as a very specific day. We kind of know when we're going to start training. We know we're going to start playing games. We know we're going to stop playing games. We have all that stuff dialed. The schedule that we're giving you in terms of our YTP can basically start from whatever your week 0 is. It's June. I would hope that a lot of you are looking at August is the period of time where hey, man, it's probably time for us to stop playing games. So what you can do right now is you can buy this book. You can start to read and internalize this information. You can go, okay, what's my plan on August 1st? I've got you. In addition to that, it's got all of our hitting videos for drills. It's got all of our throwing drill video. It's got all of the game library that came with the original Skills at Scale practice manual. So if you're thinking about these concepts and deploying them to kids and make sure that it's fun and it doesn't suck, well, here's the tool to do that. It's got our velocity development programs, because velocity is a good thing. It's not a dirty word. It's got our bat speed development program. It's got our bat to ball development programs. And it's got our blend to competition programs. It's got a bunch of stuff that's not just here, go read this thing and hopefully you get it right. We're trying to equip you with tools for coaches, tools for parents, tools for kids who want to get better at this thing. Yep. And if that stuff didn't come with it, I wouldn't sell a book for that much money.
And these, I believe, dummies online, right?
Sure. Let's be generous.
With being a dummy, maybe they don't know this information, but if you think $199 is expensive for a book, I got some bad news about textbooks for you.
Oh, yeah.
This is all of the things that Deven just said encompass. This is a reference. This is a reference book. This is not a book you're just going to read once and then put it on the shelf and never touch it again. This isn't something you should check out of a library, which is what I would recommend. Libraries are great. They're free. Do that for a book that you're only going to read once. For reference material that you're going to go back and look at all the time, this is actually relatively cheap. There are textbooks that I still have that I still go back and look at, which, I've gotten my value out of those. It's been a while since I was in college. So I've got a lot of value out of those textbooks if I still look at them. And this book is the exact same way.
I've talked to my kids a lot about an old, I guess it's kind of a poem. It's more of a dissertation, this thing called the Desiderata. Okay. My grandparents had it up in their house, and I used to stare at it over and over and over. And when my grandparents passed away, it landed in my house. And I didn't put it upstairs. I put it downstairs where my kids are. And one of the pieces that's in the Desiderata is a line that says, "Do not compare yourself with others, lest you become vain and bitter." And I say that as a prelude to saying this. I have Coaching Baseball the Ripken Way at my house. I have multiple copies of Ted Williams' Science of Hitting at my house. Yeah. And I
The
am,
amount of times I've looked at that book,
yeah. And I'm not trying to tell you that you shouldn't probably take a look at those books, because they're written by baseball men that have way more experience at the professional level than I could ever possibly hope for. But I'm pretty sure I coach more youth baseball than Ted Williams.
Yeah, it's fair.
I'm pretty sure that I've got more expertise on how to help you deploy this type of system of like skill forward, engagement driven youth baseball development than either one of those guys. It's a different thing. And that's why it costs what it costs. And again, like, hey man, I understand that everybody's dealing with the same thing. This stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
Like baseball as a sport is expensive. I don't have any intentions. We don't have any intentions like negatively contributing to that, which is why we're giving you the discount code for AXBAT, because the money that you use to buy bats, we get a slice of, and that money goes directly in our scholarship fund, of which we've given away $250,000 in the last 4 years. I understand that all this stuff is expensive. That's why I try to cram so much flipping value in there. Yeah. So if you're going to go buy the book, and you think you haven't gotten $200 worth of value with all the resources you get from it, like, tell me. We've had more than 700 people buy the book so far, and nobody said that yet.
Not one person.
Not one person. People want to chirp on socials, sure, but those, and I know that, like, if I was having this conversation with Lord Business, Mike Rathwell, our CEO, he would very succinctly say those people aren't trying to buy anyways. They just want to chirp from the sidelines. You, dear listener, hopefully this has been beneficial in any way, shape, or form to understand the intention of the book, right? It's like, I want to give you all this value that's probably cheaper than like 2 lessons for your kid, because that's probably a thing that you don't have to keep doing if you understand the principles and the application therein of the stuff that we advocate for. So that's Skill Complete Youth Baseball Training Manual. Youth Power Bats are back in stock. Youth Underload Smash Bats are back in stock. Those are the things.
Yeah. The slight tangent, the Deserata was when I was at, because for those of you who, well, none of you know this, so I've got many skills. One of them is being Driveline CPR instructor.
That's facts.
Facts.
That's facts. My guy is multi-talented.
Multi-talented, not only saving lives, but teaching people how to save lives here. When I went and got my certification to teach CPR, the guy who taught it had on the back wall the Deserata with Scrabble tiles.
Oh, really?
Like fully, but with Scrabble tiles. And I was like, wow, that's really incredible. And he's like, yeah, it took me years to like collect all of the like the board games with enough tiles. He's like, there's like, I think he said there's like 30 H's in the poem. So like, and I was just like, you can buy extra Scrabble tiles. Like you could go online and buy, like, hey, I lost Scrabble tiles. You can buy more. You don't have to buy a whole board game. And
somebody's got a 500 count of those on Amazon, like right now.
Oh, for sure. And he just like looked at me and I was like, oh no, I think I just broke this guy's heart. He spent so many years trying to find Scrabbles in like half price books and Goodwill and like he's got like probably 50 games that are just like now just game boards because he used all the tiles for other things. And I was like,
tough.
But it was cool.
Yeah. It bees like that sometime. And to move into the main body of the episode, I want to start with another spicy take.
Here we go.
Shout out to Kip. And I'm not going to like throw your whole government name out there, because I don't really want to blow your socials up like the way that you try to blow up our Driveline socials. But like, your boy's feeling a little bit spicy today, so we're going to talk about it. So Kip, and like, are we in 1942? Like, who's named Kip anymore?
As a full name, not many, but it could be a nickname. You don't know.
I digress. It's evaluation.
I'm I guess playing devil's advocate for this Kip guy. I have no idea what you're about to say.
I don't think you're going to be playing devil's advocate for long. So my guy Kip, look, it's evaluation season, tryout season, if you will, for all of us, including us. We're doing them different. We've been doing them different for really like almost 2 years now. In that we are no longer running like these group tryouts. And there's a reason behind that. And I'll be honest that like, when you first kind of started advocating for that, it really didn't, like, I couldn't get my brain to really comprehend. But having done it this way for the last 2 years, like, I get it now. Because I think the thing that the group tryout does that's most effective, it's most effective for the team that's running it, because you have the lowest possible cost and the highest possible volume.
Yep.
Right. You mitigate your cost because you get all these kids in a field or in a facility at the same time.
Right.
Because of that, your cash outlay is less because you're going to have less time on the field, less time in your facility, whatever it is. And you kind of get to like turn the turnstile, like that's all you're doing. And if you think about that mechanism of analysis, air quotes included for anybody that's not joining us on a visual audio platform, it's not analysis, right?
No.
Like you don't really get a chance to see anything in depth.
You get nothing.
And at best, it's kind of like, I think you're generally doing like two things. You're doing it like the way that, my Little League used to run assessments, which is as good as they could possibly do it relative to the things that they had available to them, but not great.
No.
Or you're just going to it's like fishing, right? You are trawling the open waters and you're like putting out nets and you're hoping in that net you're going to find the biggest fish.
Right.
Right. That's not the space that we want to be in.
No. And this whole thing started for really two reasons that I was like pounding the table for doing it this way. One of them is you don't remember kids. You bring in 60 kids in a day. It is so hard to remember who was good, who was bad, what things you saw from specific players. It's really, really difficult. And you're evaluating them on very little, very, very little information, a very low rep volume. Whatever reps they're getting, if you're bringing in 60 kids, the rep volume is going to be low. There's going to be a lot more standing around than actual like letting you go to work and do something.
Yep.
And then the second piece of why I was pounding the table for this is it is very difficult. We do things very differently than everybody else. It is very difficult to explain that to a parent in a 60-person setting. Yep. The way we used to run it, because we did do this previously, right? Yep. And it was either you or I, most of the time you. If you weren't there, it was me, giving the spiel of why we do what we do and why we do it differently to the 60 parents. You could get a camera on that group and see, and look, I get it. Our gym is really cool. Everybody who walks into our gym is like, wow.
Yeah, a lot of wide eyes.
Right. So are they paying attention to anything you're saying about our program or what things we're looking for or how we do things? No, they're wide-eyed looking around at all the things that are going on. They're definitely watching their kid.
Yep. Who's
trying out. They're trying to see or whatever. And they're just not paying attention to what we're saying. And then we end up with parents who feel like they didn't get what they came for because this isn't the normal select ball youth travel experience because they didn't listen to the spiel that we gave.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily their fault.
Yeah. It's an efficiency of information problem.
Right.
Right.
On both ways.
Right. And it goes, you're 100% right. It goes both ways. It's inefficient in your ability to collect good, detailed information on these kids and what they're capable of. Right. And it's also inefficient in your ability to like effectively communicate value and deliverable and stuff. It's just,
and get to know people. For us, it is really important that the human fits into what we're trying to build here.
Yeah.
And you just can't evaluate kids, parents, families when there's 60 people there. It's not possible. You can really definitely pick out the dads that are way too involved or the moms that are way too involved and are like coaching in the middle of the tryout. And it's like, okay, those guys we can cross off the list like right away, basically at a 60-person tryout.
Yeah.
But like, what happens if mom brought the kid to the tryout that day and dad is a nightmare when you get to games and you don't know that if you don't get to know the family at all.
Yeah. And like editor's note, don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do that thing. Don't coach your kid during a tryout. Please.
There's nothing that's going to make coaches more gun shy about probably working with a kid in a team environment over a longer period of time when it seems as though there's an inability to kind of like separate.
Yeah.
Right. It pretends some not great things for what that future looks like.
That is also very true. If you want your kid to go play in college.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Or even to a certain degree, high school, depending on your high school coaching program or whatever. But like, every coach at every level would way rather deal with less involved parents than more involved parents. And like, if your first impression is as an overly involved parent, if you're going to a college showcase and you're the one initiating the conversation, or you're going on a college visit and you're the one asking all the questions, the impression it's going to give the coach is that like your son or daughter is just not an independent human being. And great, I'm going to have to deal with this parent. That's not in my job description as a college coach. So like, I'm going to move on to the next kid. And,
and the reality is that, again, I try to, because I know my own instincts sometimes in these type of settings is to, I'm trying to help, like I'm really trying to help. But I think the thing that, I think the reason that I think parents want to jump in and help is because you kind of realize that like, oh, well, the rubber has to meet the road now. And I've had this time with my child and hopefully I've helped to try to get them to think about how to advocate for themselves and how to communicate with adults. But then I have to cut them loose at a certain point. I can't continue to shepherd them, they have to go out and do the thing. And then it's like, oh, well, I don't know if my kid's going to ask the right questions. Right. So I'm thinking about like, okay, we're going to get back in the car and I'm going to say to my son or daughter, like, okay, so what did they say about like what the practices look like? And the kid might go, well, I don't know. I didn't ask. Right. And then you're going to go, well, GD, like what? But that's learning. Yep. And because I slightly tangented us with the high school and college talk, but like to go back to the way we run evaluations, most of the time when parents are going to be over involved during a tryout, it's not because their kid's doing really well. That too. Right. Like they're sitting back like, oh yeah, my kid's dominating, right? Like they're not going to give coaching cues. They're not going to say anything. It's when the kid is struggling a little bit. Yeah. And to be very honest, that's what I'm looking for. I want to see how the kids react when they struggle. I'm so glad you're going there. And like, we make it hard in the gym. The way we have our evaluation process now, which I guess we should get into and talk about a little bit more, but it's a combination of either coming into a team practice. If you're interested in joining one of our teams, it's coming into a team practice, and we literally throw you into the practice. We see how you interact with the teammates, how you interact with the coaches, how you interact with the trainers on the floor, and then someone is talking to your parents while this all happens, so that we can kind of get a sense for the family and what they're looking for. And all while doing this, we're collecting a ton of data on the actual like athletic ability of the kid, which is a much lower degree of importance for us when we're evaluating these kids. Yeah. When it's just them with the rest of the kids that we already know in the team, whatever, we can really evaluate how coachable they are, how they respond to difficult reps or failure in the cage. In a much lower pressure environment than like a 60-person tryout, where every kid feels a ton of pressure on them. And some of that pressure is going to be related to the fact that they're not going to get a lot of reps. They're not going to right. So we got to make the most out of every single one of these reps. I have to be so. You perfect. Take one bad run, and it's I feel like talked about this when it came to high school tryouts, but like, hey, you take one bad run in high school tryouts, yikes! Like you that's a real rough first impression. So first impressions are an insanely important thing and insanely difficult to get away from. Yeah. The tryout is the first impression that we have. It is also their first impression of us. Yep. If it's a 60-person tryout, they don't get to know us that well. We don't get to know them that well. The first impression is just kind of like a faceless, nameless interaction. Yeah. And we don't want that. We're trying to build a little bit more here than just like getting the best player, the kid who's shows up and looks in scouting parlance the most hitterish in the box. So TLDR, we don't do big group tryouts. We do individual player evaluations, and there's a reason for that. So we're running videos, about that process in Washington and Arizona right now. Is Kip located in one of those two? He's an Arizona guy. Okay. Arizona guy. And he asks a question: how many players do you turn away with money? And I was like, I don't know, as many as we have to, right? I don't understand what he means. You're about to get there? Okay. And then he asks basically a different version of the same question. And, and again, like it doesn't make a lot of sense, but like largely what he's getting at is this idea that the way that we operate is that if any player has money, rather their families have money, that they can be here. And by opening our doors up that way, that we are somehow doing a bad thing, right? This is like tantamount to taking money for a service from kids that like don't deserve it is really what he's getting at, right? This is idea that like, well, you should be more discriminatory about the players you allow to be in your program, regardless of their economics. And first of all, I would say you don't have any idea what we do, Kip. But second, I would say that like it feels like what you're constructing like this damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing, right?
Sure, there's no way to win there.
Right. There's no way to win, because if we bring a kid in, and let's talk about the conditions that would happen. If a kid comes in and they express like a very sincere desire to want to get better, to want to be here, they want to be compliant with the way that we want them to be compliant in terms of like being on the team, doing all the training, playing in the games, not trying to play for like 27 different teams or whatever. We want to give that kid a shot. And specifically at like the non-high school ages, right?
I was going to say, he's not that far off right until he brings the money into it, right? Like
right.
Our doors are only open to anybody that has money. No. Our doors are open to everybody.
Right.
Regardless of, we talked about how much scholarship we've given out. Like our doors are just open.
Yeah. And because we can exist on both sides that way, we can both charge money for a service that like I believe is incredibly high value. The last time that we did the economics of it, it was like the $1 per hour for like our high school teams is like $17 an hour or something.
Cheap.
It's insanely cheap. Yeah. You can't find babysitting for that rate.
Right.
So first of all, if the suggestion is that like, we should be more discriminatory, then like you run your program that way, Kip. Good luck. We're going to run our system. And again, I'm pretty convinced that the thing that we're right about is that most people have no idea where talent actually comes from. And because of that, I think people of Kip's ilk are very quick to like look at kids a specific kind of genetic windows and say that kid's good, that kid's bad.
Sure. And
those kids that get labeled that way are constantly going to jump from like program to program to program to program. And they're hoping that in one of those like fresh starts that someone's going to actually go like, this is the things that you're deficient in, like in a technical sense, in a quantifiable sense. And most of them are unable to get that signal. They're unable to get that feedback. They're unable to do anything with it. They don't have an idea of what the programs they're playing would be that resolve those issues. So then you end up just like turning the turnstile at multiple programs.
Right.
That's not what we do. And again, we have stories of kids who've come through our doors because of how open we are, who have both paid money and some who haven't paid us a flippin' dollar over multiple years.
Yeah.
And in fact, we've paid for travel. We've paid for lodging. We've paid for gas.
Yep.
We've paid for equipment. And those kids have gone out, and because they've been in our system for a couple years, went from like almost not even playing baseball to making a high school roster. And like, look, if the thing that you're trying to construct, Kip and his ilk, is that like by doing that and putting these kids in a team environment, which to a degree means wearing some of the effect of competitiveness, and that's a bad thing, then like, hey man, we're never going to be in alignment. You're never going to see it the way that we are, and I don't want to see it the way that you see it. Because that means making a decision about a kid. And if you don't check that box and you're not quote unquote good in whatever that entails in any specific age, then you and I just go, you don't have a place here.
Yeah. I mean, Kip was his name.
Kip.
I'm for those of you who aren't watching this on a visual medium, I'm clearly joking. Although Kip has very rapidly moved to like the top of my list of good names to say if you disdain them.
Sure, yeah,
like Kip is a really
you can land on the P
really hard.
Kip.
Yeah, like
sorry guys.
Like really I don't respect this person. Yeah. It's hard to get that out while saying the name, but Kip is one of those that you can really drive that point home without saying anything else. It's just like the way you say the name.
It's like Terrence.
Ooh, that's a pretty good one too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying Terrence, but what I mean is like you're kind of an ass.
Yeah, I don't know the Terrence you're talking about, but I know you don't respect him based on the way he said it. So, anyways, if you're thinking about naming your kid Kip, just keep that one in mind.
Yeah, might have to think about that.
But Kip, you are telling on yourself, and so is anybody else who runs their program this way, that you just don't think you're a very good coach.
Right.
If you can't take kids who you take one look at and think, they're not that great at baseball, then you're not a very good coach if you don't have some sort of drive to improve them, or you just don't believe in your ability to improve those kids.
And I'll go one step further. If you look at that kid as a threat, because that threat represents a diminished ability for your team to be competitive in the current term, brother, you might have too much of your identity wrapped up in the competition results of children.
Well, you definitely do. Right. Like, there's no question. Yeah. But yeah, that's the part with me of you should only take kids who are good at baseball or hit some invisible parameters that we want. It's like, well, no, I'm pretty confident in our ability to coach these kids up and make them better.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of this kind of comes back to a degree, the thing that I was writing about in like our company post last week. It's like, where does talent come from? You know, like when you have these kids that are good at like 9, 10, 11, why?
Yeah.
Right. And there's going to be kids that are good to whatever degree that means something relevant. Some of that is going to be biological, right? Yeah. You're going to have kids that are biological growth outliers. You're going to have kids that are like competition outliers. You're going to have kids who are like decision-making outliers.
And you might have kids that are none of that, but mom or dad was an athlete.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, there's something,
yep,
right? Like mom or dad or both were athletic, and like, you know, dad's a big guy, mom's really tall. Like there's projection here, right?
Yeah, that's for sure a thing. For sure a thing. But ultimately, I think beyond that, outlier development to one degree or another, projection, I don't know that we really have a good idea where talent comes from.
No, we don't. Yeah.
But we have some ideas. And when the idea that we land on is it's like talent is just a result of like recurring exposure to stress and stimulus are going to drive the positive adaptation that you need to flourish in whatever the sport is. Well, now we're just thinking about it differently.
Right.
Right now, it's just like it's a time under tension game. How many reps do I need with good ball flight goals? How many reps do I need with consistent focus on velocity and location? How many reps do I need at whatever like compound athletic movement that I'm deriving that's going to inform the performance of those baseball sport specific skills? Mm-hmm. How many reps do I need? Right. How much consistency do I need? How much exposure do I need to the game environment to stress test that stuff in its development? You're just fundamentally looking at it in a different way. And to the Kips of the world, and unfortunately you're never going to see this because I blocked you on everything, so good luck with that.
He might still watch this.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I can't block you on Spotify, so enjoy.
Or YouTube, probably.
Yeah. So enjoy the intention, but like if you think that there is some degree to which you can castigate our intention that's going to cause us to deviate from the path, from the actual literal mission statement that we have, I got a bridge to sell you, brother.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen. That was meant to be really short and it went kind of long. So I have a couple other things that I wanted to get into before I wanted to recap the Art Right tournament. Again, viewers joining us on an audiovisual platform will see this gigantic base-shaped trophy that we got over there.
That's why it's on its side. It's because it's shaped like home plate and there's no way to...
Yeah.
You have to hang it if you're going to situate it.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second. So I'm out of town this weekend. Had to get some throwing in with my son. And I just wanted to put this out there as like a thing that you can do with your kid of a variety of ages in order to like help their throwing be a little bit more actionable. We played a little game called Race to Two Strikes. So what we did was we kind of just said like, hey, like what's the intensity we're looking to throw at today? You know, we were trying to stay at 60%, 70%, 80, whatever. And then we're just going to play a game. And the game was really simple. We were like in a large grass meadow. It was just like, all right. And we were probably a little more than 60 feet away.
Okay.
It's like, all right, like, let's just like talk through at bats. And first round that we did, it was just like, hey, we're just going to try to see you can get through it and see how you try to get to 2 strikes the fastest, which I think prompted him to have some pretty interesting thoughts about like, okay, in a
Which
1-1
pitch?
count, like what are you confident with? And as that confidence grows, how does it change like your 0 pitch selection, you know? Because if the slider that was quote unquote buns before we started playing with it, and then it turns out that like it's actually kind of not, and it's never really been bad. You just kind of like got away from
Also,
it.
we don't need to do the pitch design that he's been begging me for because
I mean,
he told you buns, but he told me it's gone. It's gone. I don't know where it went. I can't throw it anymore.
And then he's just like throwing frisbees at me, and I'm like, I don't want. This is gross, dude. I don't. Yeah. So I don't know. You can give that a try with your own kids, but I think the Race to 2 Strikes game was like really cool. Just something we kind of came up with on the spot because it helped him kind of go through that process of like thinking through ABs a little bit more. And we did that for a couple rounds, and then was just like, all right, well now we're just going to play, just straight up like a full AB. So we did that for a couple rounds. Then it was okay. Let's just try to like play out the whole AB, and then you get in those. Then you get a chance to talk through like the 2-2 situation.
Yeah.
And with 2 pitches to play with, how does it change what you're comfortable with throwing in a 2-2 spot, knowing that if you don't get what you want, then maybe you're still going to end up at 3-2, and you get to kind of re-answer that question. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think we probably need to put that out there as a little bit more defined process in, I don't know, the free guide or something. But the Race to 2 Strikes game was pretty fun.
Nice.
It was pretty fun for him. As we continued to play, he's like, can I throw a little bit harder? And it's just like, it's trying to stay in programming, thinking that we had a game yesterday, which then got rained. Are you fucking... Why would it do this if we're recording? It is recording. I think it's just going to do it. I think it's just going to screen save it.
Because there's no video?
Yeah.
What the fuck do we need a survey for? Jesus Christ, man. It's been one fucking day.
And before this thing blows up on us any further, let's talk about the Outright tournament. So for anybody that doesn't know, Outright is one of, I guess, the bigger tournaments in our local area.
I mean, it depends on how you deem bigger and like most important to win, whatever. This is like I believe the largest amount of teams in any tournament all year.
Yep,
in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep, it's big. And I won't bury the lead. Our 11U went out and won the ship in their division, which is pretty tight. And overall, I think we had the most competitive showing, I think, of basically any tournament that all of like a lot of our teams have been in terms of like win-loss record globally.
Right. We got a lot of teams and almost every tournament we have multiple teams playing. So like, we've had tournament wins before, but like that always is accompanied by like a couple of those teams not playing very well.
Yeah.
Like one team wins, a couple of the other ages don't play very well.
Mm-hmm. And broadly, all of the teams that we entered in that tournament did pretty darn well.
Yeah.
With the exception of like our 12U age, but like all those games were tight and competitive.
Yeah.
Like I think I still believe I don't.
And they're playing a lot of good competitive baseball in league play and outside of that. And it was, it was one weekend.
Yep, absolutely. And I thought, I thought it was just worth recapping, not only to kind of like talk about that, but also just kind of talk about like, I mean, what does it mean? Like, what's the goal? We're just trying to go out and like play tournaments. Are we are we desperate to win the ship at like every age and level with everything that entails? And it's like, no.
Now, I don't know if we've really had this conversation on the podcast, but I really don't like tournaments.
It's tough.
Like the reason why we play tournaments is because we need to get game plan and we don't really have other options.
Yeah.
If I had enough other options to actually get the amount of gameplay I want to get these kids without playing in tournaments, we would absolutely do that thing. Tournaments are a necessary evil at the point we're at, where like we've got to get gameplay in, and this is just like the only way to do it at this point is tournaments.
Yeah, and I think, for Art Right specifically for us, and this might be a little bit more relevant to anybody in our local area, but you can kind of think about the way that wherever you are, your tournaments are structured, at least for the high school ages. It's kind of like a slow drip. It's like it's one game a day, one game a day, one game a day, and then you open up the opportunity potentially playing multiple games on that last day. But we didn't have, for our high school age teams, I don't think
we got lucky. Our high school, my 15U team got lucky. We had one game a day.
Yeah.
Every other high school team did not. Yeah. We were one of the very few in the entire tournament that actually got the schedule of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And then bracket Monday. But like, I'm a fan, so I was watching a lot of college baseball this weekend whenever I was able to. And they play less games in a tournament weekend than any of these kids are being asked to. At the regionals. And also, they have much larger rosters, which include a much larger bullpen and group of starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Most teams that are going to go play a tournament are like somewhere between 10 and 15 kids. And most of those, especially depending on the age, are not POs. So you've got likely 10 to 12 kids playing every game, pitching, playing the field, doing all this stuff. And like at no other level of baseball are kids ever going to be asked to do this thing.
Yeah, it's so crazy that's just like the thing that we've talked ourselves into. And again, I will come to the defense of the tournament providers a little bit in that I think a lot of this is just like a field scarcity issue.
Oh, why would you do anything else?
Right.
I don't fault them at all.
Yep. Yeah. It's a real challenge when you don't have enough fields relative to the volume of teams that want to participate, that like you end up in that format and you're just going sun up to sundown and everybody's got a doubleheader.
Right. And it's
really difficult.
Right. It's not just baseball. We've got this baseball, the regionals is 64 teams.
Yep.
Another college sport has I think it's now 68 teams, but like a large tournament that happens every March that a lot of people watch, where those guys don't play 2 games in one day.
Yeah.
And then you go down to 11-year-old AAU basketball and they're playing 3 games in one day in a tournament.
Yeah. And
then we're wondering why kids' knees aren't making it or holding up or whatever. It's like, this is not just a baseball problem. This is like an American youth sports problem it's more. And the only way to do that is have them play multiple games in a day when like at every other level of competition, we would never ask them to do that thing.
No. And people would be appalled. Right. And that's, I know that every year that the regionals come around, there's a lot of conversations.
There are doubleheaders in the regionals. I will say, right? Like Sundays, they're like elimination game, and then you play a second one. They have full rosters.
Yeah, I mean LSU had 2 games yesterday, right?
Yeah. Most teams on Sunday and elimination day, like like most teams will play 2 games, and then potentially a third today if they win, and it's 2-2-1 teams. But like they have full bullpens.
Yeah,
they're not asking the same kids to play shortstop one game and pitch the next game.
Yeah. And I know that, there are guys in our space who every time, every year that this rolls around are going to, go off about some of these workloads that these kids are taking on. And look, I think for some of them, when you're talking about draft prospects, some caution obviously is merited, right? Like you don't want to screw up a kid's future. And I would hope that, most of the coaches the good coaches at this level can kind of see that that's kind of the game that they're playing. But for some of these other kids who either aren't going to be drafted or aren't interested in playing beyond college, man, I don't know. I don't think you can begrudge the kids, just like they want to give everything they can to the team and to their teammates and to cap off that experience. I don't think that I understand that the kid's going to make that choice.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like
yeah.
I totally get that. And for us, again, you know, when it relates to the fact that we, the tournament providers, I think to a degree, are forced in this configuration because of the volume of teams that want to participate and the lack of fields. And then that rolls down hills to teams in terms of the decisions that we have to make about eligibility, workload decisions, etc. So, you know, a couple minutes ago, I was talking about, you know, we're not really desperate to go into these tournaments to win them,
Right.
because if we were desperate, then we would talk ourselves into those type of choices.
Mhm.
And we are so cautious and cognizant of some of the potential short-term and long-term effects of those reckless workloads for kids,
Right.
whether you're talking about the 12 and under crew who are still potentially finishing up their little league recreational season, whether you're talking about the high school crew who just finished their own seasons, their own playoffs, their own run to state, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the levers that guys make decisions with about what they're going to do and how they're going to behave are influenced by short term over long.
Mhm.
You know, it's just, and I get it. You know, obviously the third, you know, the third there that's thing that's involved there is teams whose value proposition is communicating to parents winning.
We win.
Right. And you put all those things together and it's not a great surprise that, you know, you see some pretty abhorrent stuff. I mean, there was, oh gosh, I meant to pull it up on my phone before I started talking about it, but with all the technical glitches, I lost it. But there was a box score that I found. Oh, kid throws 82 pitches, 23 of them strikes in 1.2 innings.
Oh.
And again,
I bet everybody had a great time.
Yeah. Ugh.
The batters, the catcher, the pitcher, all the parents, the coaches, everyone enjoyed that. That was a great day for everybody involved.
And again, like, I'll try to be as charitable with that team as possible, in that it's kind of like a major league game where you're down big early and you're just
Go
like,
eat some innings for me.
hey, middle reliever guy, you're gonna have to wear it.
You're wearing it today.
You're gonna have
100%.
to wear it. But the difference is that this stuff plays out not for a fully formed adult professional who's paid well, decently,
and who
right?
understands their role and says, I can wear it.
Yep.
Right.
It's a 14-year-old.
Right.
It's a 14-year-old going 82 pitches over 1 2/3. And the tournament organizers don't want that. I don't even think the team probably wants that.
No.
But you get in that position where it's like you're down, you know, you're down early, you know, you start a kid, they're going to give up a few runs in that first inning, and it looks like you're just going to get run ruled. And it's like, well, Johnny's just got to wear it for the, you know, for the remainder. And then you get to the point that he throws 82 over an inning and 2/3, and you're like, actually, no, we still have to throw somebody else on the hill, because now it's just, but
right.
it's not like, it wasn't like you're just like driving along the freeway and then there's just like this chasm you have to navigate where it's like, oh, now things are bad. It's like you're driving down the freeway and there are potholes and there's mines and there's chickens crossing the road. You're playing Frogger, or there's all this bad stuff happening, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse till the point that you like Thelma and Louise it and just run it off the cliff.
Correct.
Spoiler alert if anybody hasn't.
Yeah, if you,
I mean, it's been a few decades.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And, you know, and with all that said, look, you know, when we go, we would go a few games over 500 in a tournament, the way that we approach it, the mindfulness that we bring to it, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm good. Now, you know, we are going to get to some tournaments at the end of this year where it's like we are, you know, we talked, for any long-term listeners, remember us talking about club championships. Like that's a thing that we value maybe fractionally higher, but not to the point that we're going to violate any of like those core tenets of what we're trying to do.
Right. We always want to go out and compete.
Yeah.
There's that, like, nobody likes to lose. Losing stinks.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. Like, nobody wants to do that. We're always trying to win whenever we're on a field. We won't ever make decisions that are going to put winning above development or a kid's long-term health future status in this game.
Yeah.
And like, that is going to mean that like some tournaments we're going to win, we're going to do well. And some tournaments we're not going to do as well. And like, I will, so my team is in our right. Saturday, if we had won that game, there's a really good chance we win our pool on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I had one starter throw Thursday, another starter throw Friday, and then my third starter threw on Saturday morning. I had my fourth starter planned to go on Sunday. My third starter was slightly rough.
Yeah.
It was he was good through 3 innings, allowed 4 in the fourth, and it's a 4-4 tie. He's already thrown 65 pitches, 64 or something like that. So like, I'm not bringing him back at all. I've burned him in perpetuity. So like, yeah, because it's a tournament, I'm going to try to get another inning out of him and save some pitching down the road, because I know I have a game Sunday, and then hopefully I got 2 more on Monday.
Yep.
So I'd let him go out there to start the next inning. His stuff wasn't the same. We made an error. All of a sudden, I'm pulling him off the mound 2 outs later, and it's 8-4.
Yeah.
8-5. It was a 5-4 game, and all of a sudden it's 8-5. And it's like, yeah, I every ounce of me wanted to make a different decision, because I knew the right decision was not to send him out there, because it's a tournament.
Yep.
I didn't really have a choice. I would prefer to not burn guys when I'm looking at 3 games that I have to play over the next 2 days.
Well, I mean, in the choice that I think a lot of guys are faced with all too often is like, well, I'm just going to I'll roll my number 1 back out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've just constructed this house of cards, man. And it's, I don't know. I'm sure I'm not saying anything particularly revelatory for anybody that's listening to this pod, either your first time or a long time, for us to say that like, hey, this is the way this stuff plays out. But it's really real. It's a real thing that is playing out every single weekend.
Yep.
And when we start to talk about this issue with real significant surgical intervention happening younger and younger and younger for kids, we talk about the rise of UCL reconstruction and other type of stuff that's going younger in ages. This is the effect of the system we've created. Like, this is just kind of, this is the cost that's going to have to be paid.
Correct.
And it's tricky, because again, you've got guys like us who are firmly aware of all these things, but we got, kids need to play games like that. That's a thing that we need to do. Regardless of anything about, whether the parents want it or not.
Right.
We want to see that the kids need to have their stuff stress tested.
Right.
They need to compete.
Mm-hmm.
They need to learn how to work through this stuff. But the poison pill you end up having to swallow is the container for it.
Yeah. And like the losses that we take are literal losses in games.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the easiest thing for us to take out of all this, right? When we look at it with clear eyes. Yeah. We don't, that's the least important thing of a tournament weekend.
Yeah.
Is whether or not we actually win. If we win, great. That is a cherry on top.
Yep.
The least important thing is whether or not we win that tournament. And I honestly feel bad for anybody who runs something that is the other direction, because like, these weekends are stressful enough as it is. If if the only thing that matters is winning that game, and everything relies on whether or not we won that championship, we won that tournament that weekend, man, that's got to be insanely stressful.
Yeah, it's,
we're all taking poison pills. The one we're taking is just like actual game result losses.
And to your
exact I'm okay with that.
Right. And to your exact point about the stress involved, consider the downhill ramifications of that.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches are stressed out, parents are stressed out, kids are stressed out. Gee, who can I think is going to bear the brunt of all of that stress? Mm-hmm. Oh, perhaps it's the umpire.
Yeah.
Right. It's the person who's solely responsible for this thing. Again, this trap we've created where any outcome other than the one that sees us winning is fraught with danger. Right. Then of course the umpires are going to get caught in it. Right. And it's like, look, quick PSA. If you're a young umpire, maybe, just maybe, don't create a social media account trying to validate your poor choices on the field when the video that you use to reference said incident doesn't agree with your perspective, or it's not as black and white as you might prefer it to be. So just
Counterpoint was very funny to wake up to a bunch of messages from my 15-year-olds that the umpire posted a video of me arguing with him on TikTok. So,
oh man, I mean, that's that's the language these kids speak. So I guess we can't be surprised. It's just, and again, the tournament organizers are having to deal with this too, right? Yeah. They have too many games, not enough guys. So it's like, okay, we're going to try to get more and more kids. And then you have these type of situations where nobody's really looking for this to be the outcome, but we don't know how to do anything different. We don't know how to do anything different.
Correct.
I don't know, and I just oftentimes feel like nothing's really going to change unless we just try to do something that's like, you got to break the paradigm, man. You got to change.
We're trying. It takes time.
We are. So quick run through some shout outs to some kids. It's just like really went off for us. On our 18Us, Noah Wooding with a 1267 OPS, Max Miles with a 1138, Lucas Hubner with a 1. On the pitching side for 18s, Mac Miles, 9 innings, 4 earned, 4 walks, and 10 punchies. Seems like a pretty good day.
It's a pretty good day.
Lucas Rodriguez.
That's a pretty good day. Lucas, pretty good day, my guy.
Who was capped. He's still onboarding, right? So we capped him at a very specific pitch count.
So Lucas is a wonderful kid who everyone can have different opinions on the matter. I believe through no fault of his own, will never have played an inning of high school baseball. Unfortunately, this is a situation where nobody really has the best answer as to why, but it's hard to believe that politics aren't at play here, at least a little bit. So he did not make his high school team as a senior. He's going to go play college baseball.
Yep.
Didn't make his high school team this year. So he was with us training all spring. So he wasn't on ramping specifically.
Yeah.
He just hadn't faced a ton of live hitters because he's been on ramping with us, throwing bullpens, but we hadn't gotten him. He was cleared for about 50, 60 pitches.
And again, if we were not mindful of this stuff,
you think any coach in America would have taken that kid out? Go ahead and read what he did. Anybody would have taken that guy out, and we lost that game.
Yep. 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 1 run, 2 walks, 9 punchies.
Yeah, and that was only because the 5th inning, he started to get a little tired. But
and Lucas does. I know Lucas doesn't want to come out of that game.
41 pitches, 51 pitches, 41 strikes.
Yep.
9 punchies. We have a lead in that game.
Yep.
Nobody, no coach takes that kid out unless the organization forces him to.
Yeah, and it's not an enviable position to be the ones who are like,
no,
hey,
as a coach, that sucks. When a kid is pitching that well, to go out have to be like, hey, I'm taking the ball from you is the absolute worst.
But what matters more?
That kid going and playing college baseball. Actually.
Yeah. And then Austin Nelson, 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks, 7 punchies.
We see you, kid.
Yeah. Shout out to those kids. 15U Black, Jeremy's team. Eli with a 1.4 OPS. My guy King with a 1.299 OPS and also flashing the leather as he tends to do. Lincoln Stewart with a 1.215. And then Taven Thompson, 5 2/3, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, 6 punchies. Brady Bonnell, 2 2/3, 5 hits, 0 runs, 0 earned, 0 walked, 4 punchies. That was pretty tight.
And that doesn't include Noah, who an inning and a third, 4 punchies.
Yeah. My kid got back on the bump, and I will publicly tell you how much I appreciate you gave him a real soft landing because his last outing didn't go well, and he was able to come in and get 3 punchies
with a smile on his face.
And I think last episode, maybe we talked about this idea of competitive mindset. And I think the funny thing that we just landed on is just I think the best version of him when he's pitching right now is just being happy as hell to be able to participate.
Yeah.
And that's fine. 14U Black, Levi Baca with a 1.936 OPS and a dinger, which is pretty tight.
It's pretty tight.
My guy Parker with a 0.9. Levi also went out 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, no walks, 6 punchies. Cam Madsen, 5 1/3, 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 earned, 2 walks, 2 punchies. Robbie Coma, 3 2/3, 1 hit, 0 runs, 0 earned, 2 walks, 4 punchies. 13U Black, Andrew Carroll with a 1.667 OPS, Mackay with a 1.5 OPS, Dylan Lee with a 1.2 OPS, Grayson Paul, 3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks, 9 punchies.
No, Grayson Ball went 5 2/3.
Oh, 5. Oh, geez. Okay.
He went 5 2/3, 9 punchies.
Oh, well, okay. All right.
One out away from a complete game.
Oh, that's right. That's right. How did I screw? Okay. All right. CJ Tarantino, 2 1/3, 6 punchies. I like that.
Yeah.
Like that's tight.
That curveball is nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. And like, again, our 12 U's, we talked about them, not winning as much as I think we thought they did, but they played good, man. Sam Johnson with a 1.8 OPS, Gavin Schultz with 1.18 OPS, Josiah with a 1 OPS. Like, kids did well, man. 11 U's who went out and won the ship. Sire with a 1.8, Owen with a 1.7, Rizzo with a 1.5, and then 3 kids that just went out and kind of shoved it. Carter Freed, 5 2/3, 7 punchies. Dylan, 3 1/3, 5 punchies. Sam, 5 1/3, or no, 5, 4 punchies. And then our 10 U's. And I did post last week the 10 U walk-off grand slam, which is just like, it's just 10 U chaotic baseball that you gotta love it. Mateo with a 1.9 OPS, Isaac Palomo with a 1.67, Kingston Klein with a 1.4 OPS, and Kingston Klein also on the bump, 3 2/3, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 earned, 3 walks, 9 punchies.
It's pretty good. 3 2/3, 9 punchies.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to kind of see, the resolution of a couple things. One is just like some of these kids that we're talking about, we've had for a long period of time, and to see, again, this is related to the whole the Kip dilemma from before, right? Some of these kids that we just ran off these numbers, all of which are like really strong, didn't start out that way. It took some time to get there. I'm really proud of the kids for putting in the work. I'm happy that the parents trusted us to kind of get there.
2 of the kids that you mentioned, for my team, and I think you only mentioned 4. No, 5 total.
Yeah.
Right. It was King, Lincoln, Eli, Taven, and Brady.
Yeah.
I think we're the only 5 you mentioned.
Yep.
2 of those started off on our 13U development team.
Yep.
And if you don't take those kids and meet them where they're at, and work with them, you'll never be able to get what we got.
Yeah.
What we are getting.
Yeah, because talent is a thing that you can develop. When you have these kids who just express a sincere desire to get better in a system that's going to get that outcome, man.
And like,
it's pretty good.
I'll dive slightly deeper. Won't take too long on this tangent, but with Brady Bonneau.
Yeah.
Brady was a kid who had really not played a ton of baseball before he came to us. Football player from a football family.
Yep.
Got the baseball itch a little bit right around, I think, the beginning of COVID. And then obviously COVID happened. So he came to us as a 13-year-old who had really played very little organized baseball, but like was an athlete.
Yes.
And like, if you do, this will tie it back to the tryout conversation earlier, right? Like if you take these kids to a field, Brady would not have shown much in that tryout. Right? Pretty raw defensively. Like you're probably hitting him ground balls. He's probably fielding a good amount of them. It doesn't look super clean. It looks maybe a little stiff. Fly balls, pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
That is a kid that, like, when you give him the right stimulus, he is going to immediately take off, get a ton better because he's incredibly coachable and really athletic.
Yeah.
And, like, if you don't ever give that kid a chance because you do a 60-person tryout and he's the 10th best infielder you have and you're only taking 6, thanks. Thank you personally for Brady because I love watching that kid go and compete. Almost threw a no-hitter 2 weekends ago. Came back and absolutely shoved in that game on Saturday.
Yep.
And like that's what you get when you open your doors to anybody and you like meet the kids where they're at and you actually like assess where they're at, give them what they need training-wise, give them a program what they need training-wise, and rinse and repeat for 2 years. And this kid is throwing 83.
Yep. Really, I don't know, man. I'm so fired up about the stories we're going to be able to tell in the next 18 to 24 months. You got a error segment this week?
I do. It is from, because we didn't pod last week because we had the tournament and everything. But last Monday, it was Memorial Day. I was watching some baseball, as I do.
Mm-hmm.
and it was Padres Marlins. And yeah, I know.
An epic rivalry.
Yeah, I know.
A showdown for the
I'm
ages.
sick, people. I am. There is a disease within me. So I'm watching Padres Marlins, and it's 7th inning, a 1-1 game. Leadoff single, fly out. So runner on first, 1 out. Taylor made double play to Tim Anderson at short. Boots it. It's gonna happen.
It's Tim Anderson.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yep. And like definitely thinking about turning the double play before the ball's in his glove.
Yeah.
So it takes his eye off it, boots it. You know, I've never seen a kid do that in a game, luckily. But like big leaguers sometimes will do that. Then we get a fly out. And then another ground ball to Tim Anderson, where he once again, and there's 2 outs this time, so we're not turning a double play.
Yeah, easy one all day.
But he's already looking towards the second base and is thinking about the error he just made. You can clearly tell, and boots another one. As he's like, the first one was a little bit backhand. This second one is closer to being up the middle, and he's like trying to field it as he's already trying to move forward and tag the base, and just like does the thing for the second time in the inning where he's trying to do something before he just has the ball in his glove first. Again, not a thing that kids ever do. And then it was bases loaded, 2 outs in a tie game, and the pitcher walked in the game-winning run in a 2-1 ball game. That's a 2-1 finish, right? Yeah, never seen that in a youth game though.
I mean,
we have 2 errors with a shortstop trying to make a play before he's got the ball in his glove.
Yeah.
And then a pitcher walking in a run. It's, man, thank God our youth athletes are just perfect and never do anything like that.
I mean, how many times have you seen that, right? It's just like the ball's going to find you. Like that's the worst part about it. Is like you have that one bad error and it's like, feels like the ball just has like heat-seeking lasers. It's just tracking you. You know?
Correct.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we already talked about it, but I love college baseball and I wish people watch more college baseball. This weekend was great. And like, I think it would do a lot of people a lot of good to see what college baseball players look like and the difference between pro guys and college guys, because I don't expect anybody to watch MILB TV, even if I do. So like difference between pro guys and college guys, and then understanding, oh, like you're even like multiple more steps down from college guys to like, right? And very few kids are getting drafted out of high school these days. If you're training youth athletes, the goal should be to play college baseball. If you don't actively watch college baseball games, how do you know what you should look like?
Yeah.
How do you know where's your reference point? What are you trying to be?
Yeah.
Because go and watch Wake Forest ECU.
Yeah.
On Sunday, where it's 2 first-round picks.
Yep.
On the bump. Both dudes doing it in a different way. You got Chase Burns throwing 100 miles an hour and pounding his chest. Although he didn't do as much this weekend, but like he pitches with a lot of emotion.
Yep.
And then you got Yesevich, who was like mid-9s with quality stuff, really good pitchability. And it was a great game. Chase Burns gave up a 3-run bomb, so it's 4-1. Wake Forest scores 5 in the 9th to take a 6-4 lead, and then East Carolina scores 3 in the bottom of the 9th to walk them back off. And it's like the amount of times I see kids giving up 5 runs and going down 6-4 going into the last inning and totally give up.
Yeah.
It's like, if you knew that like some of one of the best teams in the country, their season ended because they gave up 5 runs and then they couldn't hold the other team. Just get back up off the mat. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen as much in pro ball.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a lot of LSU weirdly. Like I watched them play the first game against North Carolina, lose, get in the loser's bracket, then win back out and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lot of Tommy White, like, you know, kids hits tanks. It's fun to watch. I don't think he had a tank all weekend. And he was just like, he's like scraping together competitive at bats, you know, and he's hitting like 107 liners at the third baseman, and they're just not resulting in what he wanted to. And it was really cool to like watch his competitiveness rose.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, didn't get what I wanted, I'm going to continue to compete. Didn't get what I wanted, continue to compete. Like one of those ABs, I think in the second game that they won against North Carolina was just like it was like a little flare shot over the shortstop by maybe 9 inches, you know, but it's just like, because the kid just continued to compete his tail off. He wasn't like Tommy Tanks but he was competitive.
He was competitive.
And like it just didn't quit. I don't know. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah, everyone should go watch more college baseball,
Yeah.
and watch it with your athlete, because it's really good for them to understand if they want to play competitive Division I baseball.
Yeah.
What do those guys look like?
Yeah.
What do the first 3 guys out of the bullpen look like for those teams?
Yeah, I think the one of the ABs that I pulled Danny up to watch with me was I think it's Jared Jones for LSU, big kid,
big boy.
The walk.
Yeah,
he took a walk in that first game against North Carolina that they lost. And it was, I can't remember who the pitcher for North Carolina was, but it was just like breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball. And he got 2-0, and it's like, oh, 2-0. I think the bases were full. No, there was an open bag. And it was like, oh, well, he's for sure going to give me a heater now. So he set up on the heater, and he gave him a third breaking ball he was way out front on. Ended up working the count full, and then took a breaking ball down on 3-2. And it was just such a disciplined at bat. And like, usually like when I'm sending Danny highlights and clips of stuff, I'm usually sending him, oh, here's somebody threw the ball really hard or made this really cool play or hit a tank or whatever. But like, it was a really cool at bat to watch.
Yeah, watch that guy grind through this at bat.
Yeah, because look, man, I know that kid wants to hit, but managed to find a way to like help the team make it competitive, even if he didn't do that.
Yeah, well, like late last night, UCSB Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the game, if I remember correctly, it ended 3-0. But it was 3-0 in the 9th with 2 outs, and UCSB got the tying runner to the plate.
Yep.
And they just grinded out those at bats with 2 outs in the 9th. Their season on the line, down 3. A lot of guys give up in that situation. Just like watch the competitiveness. These are guys. Some of these guys are playing, and they know are playing the last game of organized baseball.
Yep.
That they'll ever play outside of like men's league.
Yeah.
Look what that looks like.
Yeah. The tournament's so fun to watch, man.
Yeah, I love it so much.
But again, consider, like Jeremy said, the environment that these kids are playing as full-grown adults is very different than the game volume that we have to kind of like work our way through in the tournament side.
Correct.
And the only other thing that I got on there is just like, we talked about some of our kids in the tournament for us most recently who did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Not only on our teams, but globally, there are other kids who in whatever tournament that they had that weekend for Art Right or just this last weekend, somebody was playing games somewhere and they didn't get what they wanted. I think as coaches and parents in this environment, I think we got to be mindful about like the toll that this puts on these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that end up having to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, if you are a kid who happens to listen to this pod, because I know we got a couple of them, understand that like your parents and your coaches probably aren't trying to do this in a way where they're like trying to actively make you feel bad about how baseball can sometimes go. But sometimes we just, as parents, don't do the best job of communicating the nuance there, right? That we want to see you do well, but we still love you if you didn't. So if you need help to talk to somebody about any type of feelings you got, 988 is the mental health awareness number. Call that. They'll get you in touch with somebody who can talk you through this stuff and understand that, like, man, there's a lot more to life than baseball. And, you want to do the best you can in this game. Your parents and coaches want to see you do the best that you can in this game, but we love you the same either way. And if you need to hear it from like somebody that is a disinterested third party to talk you through that type of stuff, 988 on your phone, you can text or you can call, they'll get you some support.
Yeah.
And I would hope that, that you can do that, but I would also hope that you can kind of, they can help you with some tools you can use to kind of talk to your parents or talk to your coaches about how that stuff is making you feel. Because at the end of the day, look, you're going to win some games, you're going to lose some games, you're going to strike out, you're going to get hit up. Like the game is going to be the game. You as a human being have a heck of a lot more positive to kind of give to society as a whole, to the people that you can influence, than what you're going to do when you've got a cap and a belt on.
Yeah, no question.
Like my Uncle Rod had his funeral this last weekend, and Rod was 88 years old when he passed. And he was one of these dudes who like, grew up doing all the things that you would do if you're born in like 1930. So you're going to fish and you're going to hunt and you're going to fly planes and like you're going to do all this crazy stuff. And, to just, I don't know, you get a chance to see like the end of somebody's story, and you realize like the impact that they have, and it's just like, there's just the reverberations of the positivity that I think any human being can bring into our society when you just try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And for some people, that plays itself out on a baseball field for a specific moment in time. My Uncle Rod was a stud basketball player and a track athlete. The impact that he left on his kids and on his family, on the people that worked for him, the people that he worked with, is much more significant than anything he did in sports.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a kid, I think, have that same capacity. So if you need help to talk through that with anybody, 988, you can text, you can call. We'll get you, they'll get you help. So do that.
Yeah.
Because I assure you that these people love you a heck of a lot more than they love your baseball outcome if they just would sit down and think about it.
Yeah. And if you as a coach, make sure your kids know that you're going to love them the same tomorrow, whether or not they win today.
Yep.
What have they got to lose on the field?
Yeah.
If they don't stand a chance of losing love or the family aspect of being on a team, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. You should be empowered to be reckless and free with the way that you approach competition, right, when you understand that there really are there's no consequence.
And that's when you are going to see the most amazing things out of your athletes, is when they're playing like they got nothing to lose.
Yep. I discover myself when I fall short. Kendrick Lamar. Coming back to it from last week.
Yeah.
That's all I got for you. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
We are free. We are clear. I am Deven. He is Jeremy. We are Down by Law. We'll catch you next time. Peace.